Okay, you're welcome. Welcome to our heart-to-heart session for married people. And this is a session that we always do specially for couples, whereby we can address and talk about issues that challenge marriages, issues that many times, like I always like to say, that areas that the sun does not shine on, the dark places of our lives, and also for us to find wisdom, wisdom in living with each other, as a husband and wife, wisdom applicable to relating with one the other. When the Bible talks about husband and wife together, the Bible actually tags it to knowledge. That a man ought to have knowledge in dealing with his wife. And of course, the wife requires wisdom in being able to deal with the husband. And last week, we started something particularly, we titled last week Spouse and we titled it Spouse and Colleague. That's what we titled it last week, Spouse and Colleague. And we titled it that intentionally because we're exploring a truth that when husband and wife are relating with each other, if they are relating as if they're relating with their colleagues in the office, they'll be able to relate professionally. Because no matter how upsetting or annoying your colleague is, it's interesting that one still maintains some borderline of professionalism in responding one to the other. In the same way, want to look at another hack this evening. And the hack for this evening is titled Spouse and Patient. The same way we looked at what it's like if one is considering your spouse as a colleague, let us look at what it's like when one is considering your spouse as a patient. And welcome this evening.
I'm quiet.
Well,
this one choke me.
This one choke you. You shocked?
I shock you.
Now, I'll start by saying this. The definition for patience. Well, okay, don't let me jump ahead of myself. Marriage requires patience, more patience, and a little bit more patience because you are married to a patient. We know that marriage requires patience. We definitely know that marriage requires a lot of patience. In fact, one of the things marriage will teach you is patience, because in marriage you learn how to be patient one with the other in responding, addressing, relating one to another. If you can't be patient in marriage, you can't survive marriage. Because marriage will test every fiber in your system. It will test and press all the notes, all the buttons on your life. It will play your music. It will play your sound. It will oscillate. It will transpose. Marriage will test everything. It will check everything. Now, and I'm now pushing a thought that the reason why we require so much patience in marriage is because you are dealing with your patient. Now, let me show you something. Just hang in there with me. The definition for patient is very interesting, because when we say the word patient, it means in the English dictionary, able to accept or tolerate delays. I like that. Problems, able to accept or tolerate delays, problems, or suffering without becoming annoyed or anxious. I'm going to read that again. Able to accept or tolerate delays, problems, or sufferings without becoming annoyed or anxious. Now, interestingly, when we use the word patient in respect to a person that is admitted in the hospital, It's interesting that in the English language, it's the same word, it's the same spelling. That's why the second meaning of patient, when a person receiving or registered to receive treatment. I intentionally skipped the medical. To receive treatment. So when you are relating with your spouse, there's a way you relate with the patient. When the person is medically sick, you consider a lot of things. You cut them a lot of slack because at that moment you know they're not their self. So you allow them to do a lot of things and seemingly get away with it. You allow a lot of things to slide because you know they are not themselves at that particular moment. That is why it's interesting to note today that when we're referring to a person being your spouse, being your patient, if your spouse was sick, how do you treat them? Have you discovered that when a person is sick, you take a lot of rubbish? When a person is sick, because you know at that moment they are not themselves, so you take a lot of rubbish, you let them get away with a lot of things, you give them attention and allow things to slide, because you want to give them their food, they are behaving, annoyingly, but you don't get annoyed. Why? Because you know that they are sick. You are treating them. Now I'm telling you that there are times, from time to time, when your spouse requires treatment.
Because they're sick.
Well, yes, according to WHO, because sickness is not just about the body, sickness is also about the mind, the emotions as well, the psyche. And from time to time, every human being gets emotionally, psychologically sick, from time to time, mentally sick, psychologically and emotionally sick, and they require treatment. So what we're trying to get you to see is that when a person is sick, they are not as annoying. They're not as annoying as usual. Do you understand? Even though they're acting very annoying at that moment, but you can tolerate it because you know at that moment they are sick.
Okay. You're welcome, everybody. You know why I've been a bit quiet is because when I was asking him this evening about the topic, it just occurred to me that the same word patient, which means that you're patient or you're calm, is the same spelling for the word patient, meaning if someone that is sick that needs medical attention. So it just with your patient. So the funny thing is, in marriage, we're both patients.
Yeah.
We're both emotionally or mentally or physically or spiritually sick. We both need attention. We both need medical or spiritual attention. So how do you cut each other some slacks? How do you start at some point that I think my wife needs spiritual attention, emotional attention, medical attention. You see, because if, God forbid, one of the spouse were to be sick right now, the other spouse will leave everything. I mean, everything to attend to it. You would actually want a scenario where you would actually not go to work. You would go extra mile to maybe get the necessary drugs, get necessary attention. There are times the spouse might even need some assistance. You will go the extra mile to make sure that person is well. But the thing is, at some point, when you discover that your spouse is ill or not physically okay or emotionally or mentally okay, at that point, what are you willing to do? How far are you willing to go? What are the sacrifices they are willing to take to make sure that person gets well? Another thing that occurred to me is that, you see, there are times when the healing to the sickness might be in the hand of the other spouse. That's why I keep remembering the joke that my husband told in church severally of the husband and wife that went to see a doctor, and the doctor told the man that he would need plenty of rest, plenty of food, and plenty of sex for him to be fine. So, when the husband left the doctor's office, the doctor called the wife and said that, and told that to the wife that your husband needs plenty of rest, plenty of food, plenty of sex to be fine and everything. Okay, so the doctor told the wife. So what did the wife and said, you want to tell, right? So what did the doctor say? The doctor said you will die. What that meant is that everything the doctor asked the wife to do, she's not ready to do. And as a result of that, the wife is a goner. So there's certain times, the husband, sorry, so there's certain times when the healing we require is in the hands of our spouse. Are they willing to go the extra mile, or are we willing to go the extra mile for each other to get ourselves well?
You nailed it with that story. You nailed it. You nailed it. You nailed it with that story. You see, because in that story, the doctor just said to the husband and the wife that we've run all your tests, all your results have come in, and you just need to relax and rest. And we would keep checking on you to just, see how you're doing and all of that. Basically, what the doctor was saying that, look, nothing in the book is going to help you. And then I asked that, if man doesn't mind if he can step out, he'd like to have a word with his wife. So the man stepped out and the doctor said to the wife, what your husband needs, if you want this man to live long, he needs rest of mind, good food, and good sex. It's really funny. That story, I never realized until you said it today. This is the first time hearing somebody else say that story. I never realized how powerful that story is and how on point, because of the three things that a man needs.
Yeah.
Rest of mind, number one. Good food and good sex. That's all a man needs. What does a woman need? Money. She said so.
Attention. Wait now.
No, you see.
You know three things. How can I hold one?
You can say it.
No, we need
money. Can't say it.
Wait, we need money.
When the man to say it, it's trouble.
We need money. We need attention, and we need, we need tender loving care. When you just pet a woman, say, she might see movies. Do you want to go to the movies? Would you like for me to just take you to the beach? Do you want me to order food? Do you want breakfast in bed? That's what we want.
You see, in spite of what the first lady just said now, remember and never forget what you said first. What a woman needs is money. you understand? You understand?
We saw the radio.
The truth and the whole, you will live very long. Then if you give them money, they will sort the remaining out themselves. Okay.
Attention.
What a man needs is rest of mind, good food, and good sex. So,
but you know that for a man to have that, it's better he sort the woman out.
What a man needs. Rest of mind.
The woman has the money.
Right now, I need rest of mind.
He will give you good food.
I need rest of mind right now.
If she does not have what she with that.
So now I understand why that woman gave that man the answer.
Exactly.
And she gave him
because he will die.
Where is the woman? Because when I was on the way home, and they were stuck in traffic, and the husband asked the wife that, what did the doctor say? We're just curious. The wife went to the husband and said, the doctor said you are going to die. Meaning, she's not willing to give him anything that he needs. And what he needed was not medical. What he needed was emotional and psychological.
Yeah.
And what my wife said is so true, that when a person is sick, you go through the extra mile. That's a very good angle. Go to the extra mile to take care of them. You go out of your way to take care of them. Now I'm telling you that there are times when your spouse is actually a patient. They're not always, but I'm telling you, there are times when your spouse will begin to exhibit symptoms of a patient. Yeah. What are the symptoms of a patient? When a person is a patient, they are not themselves.
Yeah.
They become edgy. They become annoyed. They can even throw tantrums. They complain. Yeah. They nag.
Everything.
They lament. They lose their taste, their sense of fun, their sense of life.
You get bored.
In fact, the Bible says their soul abhorreth every kind of meat.
Yeah, true.
When a person is a patient.
True.
Now we're saying that when you consider your spouse as a patient, you can deal with them like you deal with your spouse when they're physically sick.
Exactly.
Because at times your spouse will not be themselves.
Yeah.
When a patient is the patient, when a person is the patient, they are not themselves at that moment, and at times your spouse will just not be themselves. It's as if it's not them. There's an adage we say back in the day as boys. We say it in my own native language, and we used to say that it's not the person that gets hit by a car that puts down the registration number. Do you get it?
Yeah.
It sounds a lot better in my native language. You understand? It's not the person that gets hit by a car that puts down the number. It's not the person that gets hit by the car. They will put it down on his behalf. When the person is sick, they can't put down the number themselves. They don't get themselves. You have to be the one to get them.
Yeah.
You have to be the one to put it down for them. Because at that moment, they're not getting it.
Yes, sir.
A lot of things look out of shape. A lot of things seem bent out of shape. They are not themselves. They need tender, loving care.
TLC.
Now, I want to make a very profound statement this evening. If only Adam had enough fortitude to know that his wife had been talking to the devil before coming to him, he wouldn't have received what she brought. If only Adam had enough fortitude to know at the moment that Eve came to him with the fruit, that it wasn't her, that it wasn't his Eve, because it was still related to her as Eve. Eve will never give you something poisonous. Eve loves you. Eve will never do anything to the detriment of yourself and the family. But at that moment, she was compromised. But Adam did not know that she was compromised. Adam was still relating to her as his spouse. At that moment she had become a patient.
Yeah.
Because she was sick.
Yeah. Sure.
Jesus, on the other hand, knew when he was listening to Peter speak some certain lines that no, this is not Peter. Peter has been compromised. That's why when Jesus rebuked, he didn't rebuke Peter by rebuking, say, Peter, get behind me. He rebuked Peter by saying, Satan, get thee behind me. If only we can at times know when the devil is coming through our spouse. Because we're going to get to physical and emotional, psychological sickness, but let's first talk about spiritual sickness.
Yeah.
If only we know when the devil has been speaking. Because for Peter to have come with those things that he said to Jesus, he had been listening to somebody, he had been listening to an external factor.
Yeah.
He had been listening to the devil. But let me tell you, the only challenge and only irony is that it's easier to tell your disciple, get behind me, Satan, if you tell your spouse. Over to you.
You can tell your wife now, like, babe,
how do you say it?
Okay, you can say, sweetheart, I think the devil is trying to sift you like wheat, but I've prayed for you.
It's not easy to say that kind of thing. Or
you can say that I think you have been compromised.
Especially when the person is angry. You better just be rebuking the devil in your
rebuke it
under your bed.
And just keep quiet.
Under your bed and keep quiet.
Or else that devil will come out too.
Because you see, exactly, Pastor Nehemiah, is very deep. At times, your spouse is compromised. I'm telling you the truth.
Yeah.
They have been hearing external forces, and it's really funny that when the person is compromised, what you could say now that will be funny. When you're compromised, will become irritating and annoying.
Exactly.
When a person is compromised, what does that tell you? That person at that moment, they are not themselves.
Yeah.
You need to treat them like a patient.
Yeah.
And not get so carried away or get so upset by everything that they do at that moment, because at that moment they are not themselves. At that moment they require tender, loving care. At that moment you need to be patient with them because they are a patient.
Yeah. True.
I'm really wondering, Nike, which one came first? Is it the chicken or the egg? And what I mean is, I really wonder, why did they is it that they started calling patients patient because they require patience, or they started using the word patience in relating to a patient?
I don't know.
But you get it?
Yes. But you need to be patient with your patient, because a lot of times that it's like a doctor shouting on the patient and saying, get well, and you know that the person is still taking the medication.
You want to give them medication, they push it away.
No, exactly. They throw tantrum.
You have to force them to eat food, and they need to eat.
So you need patience to be patient. Most likely the sick person came first, and then it was required of them to exercise patience with the patient.
So you're saying that the word patience came out of patience?
You know,
Because right now, I'm smelling burnt offering.
You have to be patient.
And it requires patience. It is well. Now, but you see, interestingly, we have already established that point that at times your spouse is not themselves, at times they are compromised, but it's not always from a spiritual standpoint. In fact, most of the time, it's from a psychological and emotional standpoint. At times, have you ever seen your spouse behave unseemly?
Just for 5 minutes.
At times, longer. It's 5 days. Yes.
That's the devil.
Which one is not the devil? Have you ever seen your spouse behave unseemly, and you just look at them and wonder, what's wrong with this? What's wrong? What's wrong? They are not themselves.
It's that time of the month.
It's the time of the month.
Maybe it's that time of the month when they are on heat.
Glory be to God.
Hallelujah. Something.
This? Where? Okay, sincere. Okay. Aha. We had a bit of an issue there. And we're back to this level. Now you require patience. It was a good test. This is exactly how it happens in marriage. At times, it seems to be a switch from that to this, and you're wondering what's happening. And then suddenly, you see people showing up in the background, and they're not the devil. They're just the technical department. Okay, as we were saying, it's not always a spiritual thing. At times it's a physical thing, at times it's an emotional thing, at times it's a psychological thing. Has your spouse ever done anything and it just made you wonder? I don't know whether you have seen this before. Your spouse does something and it just makes you wonder, and you look at them and you're wondering, what's wrong with them? What's wrong with that?
Exactly.
But the challenge is that instead of saying that, I think I've done something, I just stood and just looked at them and instead of wondering if they're okay. You begin to suddenly doubt, that moment whether they're okay. Listen, at that moment they are not okay. That is not your spouse. Understand when you need to change the role. That is not your spouse. Because if you understood that was a patient, you'll be patient. You understand?
Yeah.
If you understood that moment that, look, this is not my spouse. Listen, don't get at that moment your spouse did it. Is the patient misbehaving? Is the patient misbehaving? Don't get angry.
Yeah.
Understand and be patient with them. Because listen, that season, that moment will pass. They will not be sick forever.
Yeah.
It only human beings become sick either psychologically, emotionally, or even physically from time to time for short periods of time. And whatever they do when they are sick, you can tolerate it. And have you discovered the moment they become okay, you move on.
Yeah.
The moment they become okay, you let it fly.
Yeah.
The moment they become okay, you let it go.
Yeah.
And we're telling you, you have to learn to let it go. Let it go. Let it go. You have to learn to let it go and just exercise patience with them at such periods. This time, this season 2 shall pass.
When you talk about exercising patience, it's not that easy. I must tell you. You see, because how about if both spouses are sick at the
Now
same
that's the
time?
thing. God is merciful. It's really funny. Have you ever discovered that spouses don't fall sick at the same time? And if they did, no, I mean even naturally speaking now, and if they did, one would be more sick than the other. Have you discovered? Okay, look at it now. We're married for just a short period of time, just 18 years. Have we ever fallen sick at the same time?
Well, it's season. Your own is season now.
I'm saying physically speaking.
No. Physical sickness, no. We've never had issues to. No,
we hardly ever fall sick.
Hardly. But
as sick as I don't even. What I have is usually I get tired and all that stress. I need to rest. But I'm saying that even physically speaking, you would hardly ever
get tired at the same time.
Even if it's going to happen. You see that one person will be getting healed when the other person is falling sick.
Yeah.
And even if it seems as if both are sick at the same time, one is always more sick than the other. So the one that is less sick, or the one that is not sick at all, should be.
And in the scenario where, or in the situation where the spouse that is sick is requesting for more, it's the times when you ask for much more. The times when even the doctor gets tired and the doctor feels exhausted. How do you handle such situation where while you are treating the spouse that is sick, you also fall sick in the process because you've gotten to your end?
That's the thing. When you know the person is sick, you never get to your end. You take
keep
it.
doing it until the person is well, and then you now fall sick.
It's a psychological thing, because you know that, look, whatever my spouse is doing at this time, it's not them.
It's a sacrifice. So.
You know it's not them. Do you understand? Whatever they're doing at that moment, you know it's not them. So you bear it.
Yeah.
It's a psychological thing. You just know, you know what they will have done. You bring them food, they push it away. Naturally, you are getting very angry.
True.
But when they are sick, you can take it.
That's very true.
That's why it's a hack. When we can look at our spouse and know that, oh, they're sick right now.
And then you just be patient.
It's a hack. Because you know that at this moment, they are not okay. They're not themselves. You can take it.
Things are happening
Yeah.
with them. True.
You know.
So deep. That's deep, man.
You know that there's something that they term in law, they term it as 5 minutes of insanity. There are things that happen in marriage whereby your spouse will have 5 minutes of insanity.
Yeah.
And at that moment, it's not easy. But you have to be able to know it's 5 minutes. It's not 5 years. It's 5 minutes. You know, at times 5 minutes might look like 5 hours.
5 years.
5 years. But you can take it. You can take it.
Yes, you can take it. You can sacrifice it.
You know why? When a person is under that 5 minutes of insanity, it's not them. What happens when a person becomes intoxicated?
Under an
influence. At that moment, it's not them. You know, they did some tests and they discovered some interesting thing. They discovered that a person that is very tired, when the person is tired to a certain level, that there's no difference between them and someone that is actually intoxicated. Very interesting test. But what I'm not trying to show you in balance is this. When a person is very angry, they are not any different from a person that is drunk. At that moment, you are better off letting them be. Do you understand?
Yeah.
At that moment, they are not themselves. They can do and undo. Leave them be. At that moment, they have lost it. Because in that 5 minutes of insanity, a person is not responsible for their action. And whenever you know that, imagine if you and your spouse, you discover your spouse was drunk. What would you do? You would suddenly relate to everything that they do from that standpoint. You would take everything with a pinch of salt. If you realize that this person at this moment is drunk, it would help you, you know, to relate to them.
Yes, sir.
In the same way, when a person is very angry, at that moment they are not themselves. At that moment they are drunk. You should allow a lot of things to fly. Praise God.
Hallelujah.
We're going to establish this point today. You know, next week, by the special grace of God, we're going to build more of this.
Yeah.
You know, one of the things that we'll look at next week is WHO's definition of sickness.
Okay.
When a man doesn't have money in his pocket, he's sick.
Yes, sir.
I remember something my pastor used to say back in the day, that whenever he doesn't have money in his pocket, he will first of all feel it in his spirit before he realizes it in his account or in his physical pocket. You know, another friend of mine called it malaria. You know when you have malaria, you feel it first in your leg. When you have malaria, you feel it first in your soul. You just wake up and you feel like you are down and you're wondering, what's wrong? There's nothing wrong with me. It's malaria. There's no money. When a man does not have money, sir, he is sick. Listen to me, even in the bed, in the bedroom, at that moment, he might not be himself. Because what? Imagine if your spouse was sick and you guys had to get down together. You know, you would cut them to slack. You'll be saying harder, harder, harder. Because you know that moment they're not of full capital health. You know that they are down at that moment. So I love this to pass. You take it as it comes because you know that this is not my spouse. When Bros J was Bros J, hey, when Bros J was Bros J, he would have shifted my waist. But now you know. You allow it to slide.
Nothing will be hard.
You allow it to slide. So these are the things that one begins to put into consideration. And at times your wife has just had a bad day at work.
Yeah, and she brings it home.
She brings it home. She has a bad day at work, brings it home, you know, and if you're not careful, just like when a person has the flu, you know what happens? You have to be careful. Exactly.
You share it.
Exactly. And the easiest people to share it to are who? The children.
First the spouse. If it's block
it's usually the children that first of all start facing the brunt of it.
Yeah.
And then by the time the spouse gets involved, if it's not careful, the spouse can get contaminated. That's why the spouse has to exercise safe distance. Whether you're related to the patient, but considering yourself, least you also be tempted. You're relating to the patient, but with safe distance. You don't have to wear a facial mask. Just wear a godly one. I put a smile on board, you know, because it requires, remember, you will never fall sick at the same time, and you will never be as sick as the same. You will never be as sick as each other. God always grants mercy, whether one person seems to be sicker or more sick than the other. So the one that is in good and be able to maintain good judgment at that period of time.
Yeah.
It's been a fantastic time tonight.
Exactly.
And we appreciate this time to be able to spend together with each and every person. And we look forward to seeing you next week, the same time, Tuesday, 7 p.m. West African time, you know, and we will to continue these discussions regarding husband and wife, regarding married couples. I think we can call it tonight.
Yeah.
Oh,
It's been amazing.
okay. It's been an amazing time.